This weekend in the NWSL, it was a record-breaking night in Chicago's North Side. 35,038 fans came out for women's soccer tonight, a new record and first ever NWSL match in an MLB stadium at Wrigley Field. And our very own Sandra Herrera was there, and now she's here with us. Sandra, welcome into Attacking Third. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, just a quick flight into this studio monitor to chat with y'all about it. How's it going?
It is so great. I mean, it was thrilling to watch the match between Chicago Red Stars and Bay FC being held at Wrigley Field, and the fact that there was over 35,000 fans there, despite there being a bit of weather. I mean, on par for Chicago, but put us on the ground at Wrigley Field. I mean, the view from the press box looked pretty beautiful, but what did you experience being at this match?
Yeah, just to be really corny with it, dreams coming true, honestly. I think that's a really kind of maybe poetic way to put it. I think this is something, if you've been a part of the women's soccer landscape in Chicago, something that you knew was always maybe obtainable, but just kind of were left wondering when and how and where. And it turns out it's with new ownership, it's with new vision and investments, and it's with Wrigley Field. So the vibes were incredible. I think things that people can only imagine, and places that we're only starting to really see in this new decade of NWSL. And, we see sellout crowds in Los Angeles with Angel City and all the excitement. We have seen it in San Diego. We're witnessing a lot of incredible things in the DC area with Audi Field and the Spirit fandom out there. So to sort of see all of this work towards this kind of very special and unique one-off event, you never really know until you know. And really getting a chance to be there on the ground, you could just feel the energy. It was really tangible.
Sandra, you brought up that it was this one-off event, but to me, this is such a testament that the owners are really backing up what they're talking about. They want this to be a different Chicago Red Stars. Do you think with the turnout, the energy, just the massive momentum this game has for Chicago, that we'll see more games downtown or around Chicago where more fans, it's a little more accessible?
Yeah, I hope so. I think this was, a metric in a lot of ways and for a lot of different people, not just for the Chicago Red Stars. I mean, it obviously kind of starts and ends at least right now with them, that this was supposed to be a proof point in a number of ways that they can sell tickets at this capacity to a lot of folks who are interested, and even your casual fans. I mean, I know that there were a number of blocks of tickets that were held off for any potential walk-ups for Wrigley Field, because you get that a lot in the North Side, and especially around Wrigleyville, people who want to go and just visit the actual Cubs facility and say, let's go to Wrigley Field. But before we do that, let's visit Wrigleyville and just sort of hang out and go see what there is to do. So it's a metric point of proof now that they are able to, sell out tens of thousands of tickets if they're able to. And it was something that club president Carlito said, that they also wanted to help provide for players as well. They wanted to show players that they have support within the city of Chicago. And they acknowledge the fact that there are challenges in playing out in Bridgeview, Illinois at SeatGeek Stadium. And honestly, that's very refreshing from ownership as well. I think in prior years, in the previous decade of Red Stars ownership, it was talked about those challenges in a way that they should be accepted. But this new ownership is talking about those challenges in a way to kind of look at them as an opportunity to move forward. So I think that's what's really refreshing about all this, and sort of hearing from players as well, how kind of quickly this is all happening is also very exciting for them as well. I mean, we have Penelope Hawking, who's only in her second year with the Red Stars, and even in her sophomore season, kind of saying to us post-game that it's a very noticeable difference in terms of watching this ownership group and kind of how they're managing and navigating the Red Stars moving forward.
Yeah, Sandra, now that we've got eyes on, which is the first hurdle, right? You introduce a broader audience, and Chicago undeniably have some really quality players in Schlegel, Swanson, Hawking, Staub, just to name a few. But how do you think they actually showed up to play this weekend? What do you make of their performance? What do you see on the horizon going forward?
I love it, Kupo. Thank you for asking this question, because the fact of the matter is there was a game of soccer, right, that was still played on this day. All of this was exciting. The record-breaking crowd, all of the activations that were taking place and special events, the diehards that were bought in, the casuals that were coming up to the gate. But we still got to talk some soccer, and we got to be real. This is a soccer pitch that was made to fit within a baseball field, and you could see maybe some of the smaller and more narrower parts that they worked to get that in there in collaboration with player representatives from the PA. And even NYCFC in order to say, hey, how can we get a quality pitch inside of this stadium? But I think that was something that we were all looking to and say, maybe this is going to benefit these two particular teams. The fact that they're going to maybe have to navigate some areas of the pitch and maybe be a little bit more transitional. We were going to get some fireworks, right? And we did. We saw some literal fireworks in this game. But I would argue that the Chicago Red Stars are not happy with their performance. We could see some disappointment kind of in the body language afterwards. It was not a game that they really kind of went out and showed, I think, in terms of what the quality and style of play that they're able to do. And I would argue even Bay FC at some point maybe kind of struggled with that as well. So I would say for Bay, obviously they're happy to get the win, disappointed to have conceded later in the game. They were saying as much in the post game, but really a game where I think Chicago needs to take some of this momentum, some of this energy, and try to take it back either on the road or into SeatGeek Stadium, because at this point they're finding themselves on a 3-game skid, and that's not where you want to be at the midway point of the season.
Definitely disappointing for Chicago. Ultimately, they do get a goal late in that match, which I think helps. They got to set off the fireworks at Wrigley. But the opening 10, 15 minutes of this match was sloppy. It was all over the place. Neither team could really gain control. You touched on the dimensions of this pitch being vastly smaller than what NWSL clubs typically play on. Bay FC set a new record with 16 corners in a single match. Of course, some of that is probably due to the dimensions of it, but how much of that is due to Bay's attack and their ability to put high counter press on Chicago, force them in, and look to get end line?
It absolutely played a factor. My goodness, at least 11 of those were in the first half alone. When I saw that stat, I was like, you got to be kidding me. But look, it was a night to make records. And I was like, someone's going to have to check that for me. I don't know if there's ever been 11 corners won in just one first half of a season. But it absolutely has to do, with the talent of Bay FC as well. Rachel Kundinati was absolutely giving fits on this day. We saw Sam Staub trying her best. But, there are a couple players, in Swanson and Staub who were coming off of, extended minutes, with the national team, absolutely, kind of putting them on notice and saying like, hey, you're going to have to pay attention to me immediately. So it absolutely played a factor, 100%.
Sandra, watching this game for Chicago, I'm just thinking, okay, what's next? You have this turnout, you have the investment. Do you think that, with them playing at Wrigley, getting all of these fans there, seeing the new support, that they'll have a little bit more success maybe bringing in more players in the fall that will kind of help this team, especially in the midfield? Because I feel like that's where Chicago's lacking. So do you think that this stadium, this night, was a huge push and maybe a ploy to maybe get some bigger players to come in and help this team play a little bit better?
Yeah, you're 100% correct. That is where they're lacking for sure. And I think this is part of that. We talked a little bit earlier about certain proof points that the executives and front office folks want to see for the Red Stars, and I think this was part of it. And this will, now that it's been considered a very successful event, it's a metric for the Red Stars and also the league. Maybe opens the door a little bit to future potential special one-offs. But I think for Chicago specifically, it's incredibly important to show that they are kind of getting a little bit rapid fire with how they want to actually build out. It's kind of funny because in the beginning of this season, really in the off season leading up to the 2024 regular season, there was a lot of discussion about kind of taking things slow, kind of building with patience. We saw that that's what this front office was preaching. But now that this game kind of got into full effect and it's now considered successful, I kind of feel like there's a little bit of that ambition kind of rising to the surface again. These are folks who are, involved and they want to see this team succeed. It's why they put together the bid that they put to sort of go ahead and kind of become the new faces and the new ownership group of the Chicago Red Star side. And I think when it comes to a general manager, assistant, general manager or club president kind of having to put together a bit of a pitch to go ahead, sign players, this is incredibly helpful. It's saying, look what we can do here when we're only going to build out with more.
Sandra, quick cultural question. As a New Yorker, not a Chicagoan, is it mandatory that I have a hot dog when I go to Wrigley? Is this because I've never seen more hot dogs in my entire life, even across social media. Was there a buy one, get 35 special going on outside Wrigley?
The kids call them glizzies.
Listen,
the youth call them glizzies.
Look, full respect to the youth. I'm not going to get out here and refer to a hot dog as such. But I will say, yeah, Koopa, they were everywhere, honestly. They had them in the press box as well. We were getting the hot dogs on as well in the press box. But I don't know about mandatory, but listen, next time you come on out, hot dogs?
All right.
Glizzy.
Oh, Chicago dogs. Yeah, I'm not calling them that either. I don't think I can do that. I'm not cool enough to do that, Darian.
I'm not either. I got corrected 2 weeks ago by my roommate, and I was like,
Can you imagine me pulling up?
glizzy.
Hi, Sandra, would you like to go for some glizzies?
Yeah,
it's what they do.
Yeah.
You might be canceled for that one, Christine. Sandra, thank you so much. Absolutely fantastic to hear from you, and boots on the ground at Wrigley this weekend in Chicago as the Red Stars took on Bay FC.